For 10 restless years, Leo lived the kind of life people cross the street to avoid. He slept beneath bridges and in abandoned warehouses that smelled of rust and winter. Mornings arrived not with alarm clocks but with cold wind biting through thin blankets collected from charity bins. Hunger became less a sensation and more a companion. Bread crusts tossed out by bakery shops were feasts, and cheap instant noodles felt like luxury on birthdays he pretended not to have. He worked wherever calloused hands and silence were accepted. Construction sites, loading docks, greasy mechanic yards. Sweat carved lines through dust on his skin, and every night he returned to the streets with pockets light as breath. Workers around him joked about their families, weekend barbecues, children learning to ride bicycles. Leo offered no stories, and nobody asked. Invisible people rarely get questioned. In quiet moments, when the world loosened its grip, memories of velvet curtains and polished floors teased him like fragments from a fairy tale he wasn't sure he had dreamed. He remembered soft voices, warm dinners, a name whispered in affection. Then nothing. Just a sudden drop into a world of concrete and hunger, like someone had cut the string between him and his life. Some nights he resented the sky for daring to remain beautiful. Other nights he stared at it, wondering whether stars remembered the people who fell. He told himself he was simply forgotten, a misfiled soul in the universe's messy cabinet. Abandoned not out of cruelty but carelessness. That lie was softer to hold than the truth he feared. Maybe he had never mattered at all. Still, he endured. 10 years weathered him, sharpened him, carved resilience into bone. And beneath every bruise of hardship, a spark refused to die. A quiet, stubborn thought: if life ever called him back, he would be ready to answer. On the morning he turned 25, Leo was hauling cement bags across a sun-baked construction yard, boots sinking into dirt like they were trying to drag him underground. The foreman barked orders, a jackhammer snarled nearby, and workers moved like tired machinery. It should have been an ordinary day. Survival doesn't pause for birthdays. Then the wind changed. A sharp whir sliced through the noise. Heads lifted. Dust whirled. A helicopter, sleek and obsidian like a predator bird, descended toward the site. It didn't belong here among rusted scaffolding and sun-cracked helmets. Conversations died mid-sentence. Even the jackhammer sputtered into silence. Leo squinted through the debris-filled wind, confusion prickling his skin. The helicopter door opened. A man and woman stepped out, polished as if they were carved from wealth itself. Tailored suits, guarded eyes, a presence that bent attention like gravity. Workers froze, staring at them the way sailors stare at storms. Leo, the man called, voice steady and unfamiliar in its certainty. Son. The word hit harder than any punch Leo had taken in street fights. Son. This stranger dared to claim him in front of everyone? His heart kicked against his ribs, half hope, half anger. The woman's gaze trembled, not with pity but something heavier, regret trimmed in gold. They approached like royalty visiting a battlefield they had commissioned but never entered. We didn't abandon you, the woman whispered. You were sent away for a trial. A test. To grow strong enough for your inheritance. Inheritance? Leo echoed, his voice cracked, raw from years of swallowing silence. You are a Morgan, the man declared, as if reciting a prophecy. Heir to our empire. The decade you endured, it was your proving ground. Around him, workers gaped. Someone dropped a wrench. Cement dust clung to Leo's sweat-soaked shirt, and in that surreal moment he felt suspended between two worlds, the dirt beneath his nails and the dynasty that claimed him. His stomach twisted. 10 years of cold nights. 10 years of hunger. 10 years of being nobody. A test? No. It sounded like a betrayal dressed in silk. Leo froze as if someone had slammed a fist into his chest. The words, "We watched over you," echoed like steel chains rattling. Watched. Over him? No. They had observed him the way scientists observe ants in a glass box. Letting him bleed, starve, fail, rise, then fall again, just to see whether he was worth a last name carved in gold. His father spoke with that classical billionaire calm, polished like marble. "We ensured you were never in true danger," he said. Leo laughed. It was a sound cracked like broken glass. "Never in danger? I almost died in that construction accident at 17. I slept in warehouses when I couldn't pay rent. I thought I was worthless for years." His voice trembled, but each word was a blade. "And you call that safety?" His mother reached for him, elegant fingers trembling. For a second, something almost tender flickered in her eyes. But Leo stepped back. The memory of nights folding cement bags to sleep on still clung to his bones like dust. "You abandoned me," he whispered. "You don't get to dress it in legacy and tradition." The workers nearby stayed silent, the air thick with disbelief. Mia stood just behind him, worry carving shadows under her eyes. Leo swallowed hard. The world he thought he knew was crumbling, and the people who should have held him were strangers in designer shoes and immaculate posture. "You tested me like property. Not a son." His father's jaw tensed. "Strength must be proven." "And humanity?" Leo asked. "Did you ever test yourselves for that?" A gust of wind stirred the dust around them, and Leo suddenly felt like he belonged nowhere at all. The family he earned fought beside him, the family he was born into had merely watched him drown to measure how long he could hold his breath. Caleb arrived with the casual grace of someone who had never needed to hurry for survival. His shoes alone probably cost more than every meal Leo had eaten in his poorest year. A sleek car door shut behind him, polished chrome gleaming like arrogance made solid. "Brother." Caleb smiled, smooth as silk and just as cold. "Long time." "Brother." The word tasted bitter, like coffee left too long to burn. Leo studied him, crisp white shirt, skin untouched by sun or labor, posture sculpted by fencing tutors and etiquette coaches. A life cushioned in velvet, where pain was theoretical and choices were curated like art pieces. "So you knew," Leo said quietly. "All these years. You lived like royalty while you proved yourself," Caleb cut in, unbothered. "Everyone has a role, Leo. Mine was to learn our world. Yours was to learn struggle." Leo felt a strange emptiness balloon in his chest, then collapse under the weight of betrayal. Struggle? That wasn't education. It was neglect dressed up as philosophy. Caleb shrugged, a gesture that might have looked gracious if it weren't so hollow. "You survived. You should be proud." Proud. As if survival was a medal, not a scar. Mia stepped forward, eyes sharp. "He didn't survive because of your family," she snapped. "He survived in spite of them." Caleb's gaze flicked to her, assessing, dismissive. "And you are?" "Someone who didn't abandon him," she replied. A muscle in Caleb's cheek twitched. More reaction than Leo expected, yet still nowhere near guilt. "You think wealth equals ignorance," Caleb murmured, voice low. "But privilege has duties. Discipline. Expectations." "And yet," Leo said softly, "you never had to fight for breath, food, dignity. Your duty was comfort." Silence settled, heavy and raw. The two brothers stood inches apart but worlds away, one shaped by hunger and grit, the other by indulgence and entitlement. And in that moment, Leo realized wealth alone never divided them. Indifference did. The limousine felt like a padded cage on wheels. Leather seats, crystal water bottles, soft ambient lighting, and yet Leo sat rigid, shoulders tense, hands still carrying the memory of concrete dust and blistered iron. Mia squeezed his arm before he stepped in, her eyes steady. "Come back alive," they seemed to say. He gave her a nod, not trusting his voice. The construction yard had fallen silent as the helicopter blades stilled. Word spread like wildfire. Men who once barked orders at him now stood frozen, dumbfounded, jaws open wide enough to catch flies. The foreman, a man built like a bulldozer with the charm of a wet boot, shuffled forward. He had screamed at Leo 100 times, called him useless, threatened to fire him for breathing too loud. Leo. We didn't know, he stammered, face pale. Leo's gaze cut through him like a clean blade. You weren't supposed to know. But the look in his eyes added the truth he didn't say aloud. You didn't need to know to treat people decently. Another worker, the guy who once stole Leo's lunch, stepped back, unable to meet his eyes. Regret hung in the air thicker than dust. The car door closed. The world of sweat and steel dissolved behind tinted glass. Ahead waited manicured lawns, marble fountains, the kind of wealth that smelled like polished stillness. His parents sat across from him, trying to look warm and relieved, but everything about them radiated calculated relief, like hosts welcoming a long-lost heir back into the brochure of their perfect legacy. Welcome home, darling, his mother whispered. Home. The word echoed strangely. Leo stared at his calloused hands, rough maps of every hardship. If this gilded palace was home, why did his heart feel stranded miles behind, standing in work boots on a dirt-scarred ground with people who never loved him, yet somehow felt realer? The foyer of the Morgan estate gleamed like a cathedral dedicated to wealth. Crystal chandeliers scattered fractured prisms across marble floors, and Leo walked through it all like a ghost who didn't recognize the walls that supposedly belonged to him. Servants bowed, voices hushed, as if reverence could erase memory. Then she appeared. Chloe glided down the grand staircase, all designer silk and curated elegance. The last time Leo had seen her, he stood outside a cafe in the rain, offering her a paper-wrapped bouquet he'd saved 2 weeks' wages for. She had smiled the way people do at stray dogs they don't want following them home. You're sweet, Leo, but you can't give me the life I deserve. Now she paused mid-step, surprise flickering across her flawless face like a glitch in a perfect hologram. Leo, she breathed, voice dipped in honey she never served him before. He nodded once. Hello, Chloe. Her eyes swept over him, cleaner clothes, no dust, no exhaustion in his bones, yet she searched like someone trying to reconcile myth with memory. I heard everything. Congratulations. The word sat awkwardly between them, like a glass ornament about to crack. He didn't reply. Silence was his armor now. Footsteps echoed. Caleb joined her, slipping an arm around her waist in a gesture possessed by entitlement, not affection. I see you've reunited, he said, smiling like a man who never loses anything he wants. Chloe's lashes fluttered. Caleb and I are engaged. Leo absorbed it without flinching. The ache came anyway, a quiet pulse under the ribs, not love but humiliation remembered. Once, he'd thought she was a star. Now she felt like a street lamp, bright, but only for those already standing close to privilege. I hope you're happy, he said evenly. She hesitated. For a heartbeat, guilt touched her eyes, or maybe curiosity. What if I'd chosen differently? But Leo had already turned away, spine straight, dignity stitched into every step. Some losses weren't tragedies. They were revelations. A hush settled in the drawing room, the kind that precedes either revelation or ruin. Family portraits in gilded frames stared down like silent jurors. Leo stood at the center, calm as still water before a storm. Caleb lounged beside Chloe, one arm draped over the back of the velvet sofa, wearing confidence like expensive cologne. You always wanted what wasn't meant for you, Caleb said lightly. Including people. Leo tilted his head. Funny. Considering you once told me I wasn't worth the dirt on your shoes. A ripple of tension cut through the room. His father frowned. Caleb, is that true? Caleb scoffed, posture tightening. I've said many things. He's twisting my words. No. Leo reached into his jacket pocket. I brought receipts. He tapped his phone. A recording played, the audio crackling but unmistakable. Caleb's voice, dripping disdain. Stay away from Chloe. You think someone like her wants a street rat like you? Do yourself a favor and disappear back into whatever trash can you crawled from. The room froze. Chloe's face strained, beauty suddenly brittle. His mother's hand flew to her mouth. The patriarch's expression sharpened like a blade being honed. Caleb shot to his feet. You recorded me? You sneaky little. Leo met his fury with quiet steel. You came to humiliate me. I protected myself. Chloe's voice wavered. Caleb, you told me he stopped pursuing me because he realized we weren't a match. You never said. Her shame pooled like spilled ink. Caleb reached for composure but found only splinters. I did what was necessary. He was delusional. Leo looked at Chloe, not unkind. I wasn't delusional. I was naive. I thought effort could earn love. Turns out, it only revealed character. A heavy silence. Like truth had sucked the air out and left only consequences. In that quiet, the Morgan legacy didn't look like gold. It looked like a mirror cracked right down the center. The Morgan family gathered in the ballroom like a flock of jeweled hawks, feathers fluffed, eyes sharp with entitlement. Pearls clinked against champagne flutes, and perfume drifted like sweetened armor. Leo stood among them in a tailored suit, yet felt as though he still wore dust and grit beneath his collar. The great uncle with a gold cane sniffed. 10 years digging dirt does not refine a leader. It stains him. A cousin smirked, swirling her drink. He lifted bricks. Not balance sheets. Whispers slithered between marble pillars. Can he read a financial report? Will he embarrass us in public? A laborer cannot become a legacy. Every word was a needle, not sharp enough to kill, but crafted to bleed dignity drop by drop. Leo had battled hunger, exhaustion, and loneliness. Yet this sneering parade of polished cruelty cut deeper than any blizzard or concrete yard. His mother stood rigid, eyes darting, as if trying to protect him without breaking the illusion of perfection. His father lifted a hand to speak, but chatter rose again, fueled by arrogance masquerading as tradition. Caleb's smirk glimmered like a knife dipped in sugar. They have a point. Leadership isn't charity. It requires pedigree. Leo took a slow breath. The ballroom air tasted of money and insecurity. Pedigree, he repeated softly. You think suffering makes me unworthy. But it made me capable. I know the weight of labor. I know hunger, gratitude, and loyalty. You know comfort. And fear. Murmurs halted. He looked around, voice steady but edged like tempered steel. If leadership here means stepping on people weaker than you, then perhaps I am unfit. Because I don't break people to feel tall. I stand with those who build real foundations. A stunned quiet fell. The chandeliers glittered coldly above them, but in Leo's eyes, something fiercer burned, not the hunger for wealth, the hunger for worth. A hush rippled across the ballroom like velvet torn down the middle. The double doors swung open and Arthur Morgan, the family patriarch, entered with the gravity of an old king who'd seen empires rise and ego crumble beneath him. His cane tapped once, twice, commanding silence more effectively than any shouted decree. Enough of this posturing, he said, voice cracked by age but sharp as winter wind. Inheritance is not a crown handed to the prettiest peacock in the room. Caleb's jaw tightened. Leo stood straighter, waiting, wary. Arthur's gaze drifted between the brothers. Leo, you endured 10 years without privilege. Caleb, you thrived with every advantage. 2 paths. 1 name. He paused, letting tension coil tight. But lineage alone does not secure legacy. The Morgan Empire was built, not gifted. Eyes widened. A collective inhale swept through the watching crowd. There will be one final test, Arthur declared. The West Side redevelopment project. Both of you will present competing plans. Vision, execution, ethics, growth. His stare pinned Caleb first, then Leo. The one who proves they understand what it means to build for people, not just profit, will inherit the leadership of Morgan Industries. Caleb scoffed quietly, confidence dripping like expensive cologne. This is business, not charity. Arthur raised an eyebrow. And yet business without humanity rots. Leo felt a spark ignite in his chest. Not triumph. Purpose. His grandfather turned fully to him. You survived the streets. Let us see if you can rise above them. To Caleb, and you, we shall learn whether comfort has sharpened you, or softened you. The room vibrated with anticipation. Allies shifted. Rivals calculated. Chloe's grip on her champagne glass whitened her knuckles. This was no inheritance. This was war disguised as opportunity, and for the first time in years, Leo didn't feel like an abandoned son. He felt like a challenger with something greater than wealth to prove. Caleb cornered Leo in the long mahogany hallway outside the ballroom, where portraits of stern ancestors stared like silent referees. He leaned against the wall, arms casually folded, confidence radiating off him like heat from polished steel. So this is your moment, HM? Caleb's smirk curled like a ribbon on a poisoned gift. The poor boy turned air fairy tale. Charming. Utterly unrealistic, but charming. Leo met his gaze without flinching. We'll see. Oh, I already know, Caleb replied. You survived dirt. Congratulations. That's stamina, not strategy. He tapped his temple lightly. Business requires vision. Intelligence. Refinement. Connections. His tone was velvet, but his words cut like glass. You think you can walk in here, still smelling of dust and sweat, and outplay me? Caleb laughed softly. West Side is complex. Political. High stakes. I've negotiated with mayors, investors, foreign partners. Do you know what you negotiated this past decade? He paused with faux sympathy. Overtime pay? Leo's jaw tightened, but anger did not flare the way Caleb expected. It sat still, coiled, patient as a wolf in deep snow. Caleb leaned close enough for Leo to smell expensive cologne. I was born for this. Groomed for it. You? You're a charity case with a dramatic backstory. You sound scared, Leo said quietly. Caleb's eyes flashed, veneer cracking for one brief second. Scared? No. Irritated. That I must waste time proving what's already obvious. He straightened his cuffs, reclaiming control. I will not just win, Leo. I will bury your attempts so deep that the board forgets you were ever considered. Leo's voice was calm, steel wrapped in quiet. We'll let the results speak. Caleb scoffed. Results favor those who already own the game. Leo turned away, a steadiness in his spine that hadn't existed years ago. Then it's time someone rewrites the rules. Night settled over the Morgan estate like a velvet curtain, masking secrets and sharpening resolve. Leo stood on the balcony, city lights flickering below, each one a reminder of the life he'd crawled through and the future he refused to surrender. Wealth felt foreign on his skin, but determination? That was his oldest companion. He pulled out his battered phone, the one he kept hidden despite the shiny new devices gifted to him. A single name blinked on the screen: Zeke Ghostwire Ramirez in the slums. Zeke had been a wiry fox of a teenager, fingers dancing across salvaged keyboards the way prodigies touched pianos. Leo had once stopped a group of thugs from beating him over stolen Wi-Fi cables. Zeke never forgot loyalty. Loyalty was rare currency in the gutter, and priceless everywhere else Leo dialed. A click, then a distorted voice crackled through. Didn't think the billionaire prince would use this number again. Still me, Leo replied. Still fighting uphill. A low whistle. Heard rumors. Morgan Legacy? Dirty arena, my guy. You sure you want in? I don't want their crown, Leo said. I want justice. And leverage. Silence hummed, then Zeke cackled softly. Now you sound like someone who knows the game. What do you need? Everything on the West Side project. Zoning permits. Government ties. Caleb's partners. Board interests. Find me what's clean. And what isn't. Oh, digging dirt in a garden of gold. I like it. Leo's voice hardened. This isn't revenge. It's strategy. Caleb thinks connections are enough. I'll build my foundation on truth and innovation, not ego. Say less, Zeke replied. Give me 48 hours. I'll send you a package fat enough to choke dragons. The call ended. Leo exhaled, resolve sharpening. He wasn't the abandoned boy anymore. He was the man who crawled out of the dust ready to turn it into stone. War was coming. And Leo wasn't walking into it alone. Leo returned to his temporary study in the Morgan estate, the glow of the city reflecting off the polished floors. His mind raced with plans, but a new presence shifted the atmosphere. Rocco, the silent shadow of a man assigned as his personal bodyguard, stepped forward. Towering, broad-shouldered, yet calm as midnight, Rocco's eyes hinted at knowledge far deeper than mere protection. Leo, Rocco began, voice low and measured, there's more at play than just the West Side project. Many in the company are quietly unhappy with Caleb's arrogance and reckless leadership. Some have been observing you, testing whether you can handle the weight they've long feared he would crush. Leo raised an eyebrow, intrigued but cautious. Why are you telling me this? And why now? Rocco's gaze didn't waver. Because your grandfather trusts you to succeed. And because some of them want a leader who doesn't just inherit wealth, but earns respect. You're not alone. You have unseen allies. A thrill of hope mixed with strategy surged through Leo. Allies inside Caleb's fortress of privilege could tip the scales if leveraged correctly. He leaned closer, voice conspiratorial. Names. Departments. Who's watching? Who's willing to act? Rocco shook his head slightly. Not yet. Patience. Let them reveal themselves when the time is right. Push too soon, and you'll scare them back into silence. For now, focus on mastering the project. Let your ideas impress, your determination inspire. Leo absorbed every word, mind already calculating moves like chess pieces. Years of hardship had taught him caution and timing. Now, with Zeke feeding him intelligence from the outside and Rocco hinting at loyalty within, he felt the beginnings of a network forming, quiet, unseen, but potentially unstoppable. As Rocco excused himself, Leo looked out at the sprawling estate. The West Side project was more than a contest for inheritance, it was a stage, and he would play it with precision. The boy who had been abandoned, underestimated, and mocked was no longer alone. Shadows and whispers were gathering for his side, and soon, every smirk and sneer would meet their reckoning. Tonight, Leo didn't just prepare for a battle, he prepared to awaken an empire's conscience. Leo stood before the massive floor-to-ceiling windows of the Morgan estate, the city lights flickering like 1,000 tiny witnesses to his resolve. The challenge before him was no longer just about wealth or family pride, It was about proving, once and for all, that the boy who had survived 10 years of hardship could rise above the scorn and indifference of those who once dismissed him. He clenched his fists, feeling the tension in his muscles transform into focus. Each insult, every sneer, the countless nights he had spent hungry and exhausted, all of it fueled a single, burning purpose. He would not simply compete, he would dominate the West Side Project and show the family, and especially Caleb, that underestimating him had been their gravest mistake. Leo mapped out his strategy with meticulous care. Meetings would be precise, his proposals razor-sharp. He would leverage every piece of intelligence Zeke had gathered, and Rocco's subtle hints about internal supporters would become a quiet but powerful advantage. No detail was too small, no move would be left to chance. The clock ticked relentlessly. He gave himself 30 days, 1 month, to turn his vision into undeniable reality. Each day would be a battle of wit, endurance, and leadership. Sleep was optional, preparation was mandatory. In his mind, he rehearsed meetings, anticipated Caleb's arrogance, and visualized every scenario in which he could outmaneuver his brother. But Leo's determination was not fueled by mere revenge. He wanted to elevate himself above the pettiness of grudges, to prove that resilience and ingenuity could outshine privilege and entitlement. For the first time, the fire inside him was not only anger, it was mastery, ambition, and self-worth. As dawn broke over the sprawling city skyline, Leo felt an electrifying surge of confidence. 1 month, he whispered to himself. 30 days to turn the world on its head, and when the dust settled, the Morgan family would know, Leo was no longer the boy who suffered in silence. He was a force to be reckoned with, and nothing could stop him now.